FP-Mathieson, and this is my final project for INFA 736. So without further ado, in the interest of time, let's get cracking. Pun intended. So I knew for this project I wanted to do something with Wi-Fi penetration. Like, we pretty much covered everything else up to in this class so far as network penetration and network hacking and mapping and all this stuff that we've done. But I wanted to do something with Wi-Fi. So when I started looking, I ran across this awesome standard that I just want to share with everybody. I think we talked about it in class a little bit, but the penetration testing and execution standard is awesome. You need to go read it. I mean, it's a really cool framework that basically tells you soup to nuts how to do a pen test. It's very detailed, very specific. It's a framework, not like NIST where it's like high level, but it's much more detailed. And that if you wanted to say that you did a pen test to this standard, these are the things that you must do. I gave you there's a section about RF in there. It actually talks about the tool we're going to use here. The other reasons that I wanted to do Wi-Fi is because obviously Wi-Fi networks are extremely common. Most homes these days have them. Pretty much every business has some free version for people to go use. And then, again, if you're going to be a pen tester, you got to know how to get into Wi-Fi networks. It's as simple as that. I mean, if you don't, you're just missing a huge avenue for entry into a network. So why did I choose Aircrack? Simple. It's free and it works. It's built into Kali. You can pretty much get it in a flavor that works on pretty much every OS. It's up to date for the most part. And there's people always working on it. The NG stands for next generation. The tool works really well with other tools. It can be leveraged so that you can combine capabilities into a much more powerful attack. You can find it. It's actually built into a lot of penetration testing specific hardware. And there's a link to a wiki that can tell you far more than I can about it. So what is Aircrack-ng? Actually, it's a suite of programs. It's a combination of programs that allow you to combine their simple capabilities into a very powerful tool that will allow you to get into WEP and WPA-based networks. The only tool... There's several other programs involved with this. If you check out the link, you can find out a lot more information about them. The only one I want to mention here is Airbase because I'm not going to actually demo it for you. But what it allows you to do is it allows you to turn your computer into the access point so that other people can connect to you. Doesn't take much thinking there to see how that can be pretty awesome for you, the pen tester, pretty bad for the client. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell what Aircrack is. So before we get into that, though, I want to talk a little bit about just the background of this. So what you're trying to do here is we're trying to capture someone authenticating to an access point. So that's commonly referred to the four-way handshake. So the purpose of the four-way handshake is for the access point to authenticate to the station or the client. And the other point of the four-way handshake is so that the station and the access point can go ahead and create the keys needed to encrypt traffic between them. And stop there for a second. Yes, the station and the access point for PSK, for pre-shared key, already have a key in it. However, you don't want to be using just that key to encrypt your traffic because eventually someone will break it. So what you actually do is the purpose of that four-way handshake is to go ahead and make the PTK, also known as a pairwise transient key. The pairwise transient key is just it's a key made up of the pre-shared key, also known as the pairwise master key, the A nonce, the S nonce, and then the MAC address of each device. Those 5 things combine to make the PTK, which is what's going to basically encrypt all the traffic for that session. So for the first step in the handshake, the access point is going to send a nonce to the station. At that point, the station can go ahead and make the PTK. Then the station is going to send back its nonce with the message integrity code back to the access point. From there, the access point will also construct that pre-shared or the pairwise transient key and go ahead and it will send the GTK and the message integrity code back to the client. The GTK, also known as the group temporal key, allows the station to de-encrypt, multicast, and broadcast traffic that the access point will send out. Once the stations receive that, it sends back an acknowledgement and the handshake is complete and everything is secure. Just a quick note on these sources. I recommend you start at the bottom, work your way to the top. The Wikipedia gives you a great overview. The WPA capture will actually show you the packets of this thing happening. It's a really awesome document. I highly recommend you check that out. And then the other two are just, if you got time to read them and want to learn and go deeper into this, check them out. They're awesome. So moving on. So how is Aircrack going to exploit that? Really simple. We're going to start a packet capture using arrow dump. Then we have a couple choices. We can either wait for a new user to connect to the access point, or we can go ahead and use air replay to force everybody off of that access point or a specific client, and when they reconnect, we can capture the four-way handshake at that point. From there, we're going to take that output file, it'll be a .cap, and we're going to put that into our Aircrack program, and we can run that against a word list, or we can try to brute force this. With WEP encryption, there's a lot you can actually get into it without a whole lot of work, without having to go ahead and try out everything under the sun. However, with WPA, you're either stuck doing a brute force or a word list. Before we do the demo, just a quick note too. If you're going to try to do this, make sure you take the time to Google Wi-Fi adapters. The chipset matters quite a bit when it comes to Linux. Not everything is supported. That's somewhere where they're kind of lacking on this, especially as they've gone to the new waveforms with N and G and AC. The one I use here works really well with G, and it's got a lot of support. It's cheap. It's like $30 on Amazon. You can get them a lot cheaper than that. This is just the one that I happened to buy because I wanted to get something I knew would work out of the box. So here's a quick screenshot of all the commands that we're going to run through. I'm not going to talk about this here because we're going to actually see this live, but this is here for your reference more than anything. So you can come back, see a little better explanation of what all this stuff does later on if you want to try this yourself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and try out the demo. So I've already got my Kali machine fired up. Let me log in real quick. So I've already got my Kali machine fired up, and I've done some of the commands to save us some time. So the first thing you want to do is you want to run iwconfig. This just shows to make sure that our access point is actually connected to Linux, which, hey, awesome it is. So the next step I want to do is I want to start monitoring on my interface. So I would do air monitor, one of those programs, start wireless LAN, which is my interface, and then to game the game a little bit, I already know what channel I'm running on, so I'm going to set my channel to monitor now on 2. So I go ahead and you hit enter, and I've got a couple processes that I already had to kill. This is just my the VM pulling through my computer. So you go ahead and you want to kill those, and then so the next thing you want to do is you want to. So now we're ready. So let's say though that we didn't know our channel. How would we learn that? Well, you can use AirDump to show you every Wi-Fi network in your neighborhood or that it can receive. So you just do AirDump and then your interface. Note that I want to use the monitoring interface here, which after you hit enter on that previous command, it starts monitoring on this interface. So from here on out, we're going to use this interface. So now to discover these networks and to figure out what channel I should be on, let's go ahead and hit enter and see what comes up. So let this run for a minute. My network is TurboNet, so if you see Turbo, that's the one we're going to be attacking. So you notice that this shows us quite a bit of information. We've got the channels it's running through scanning. We've got the MAC address for the access points. We've got the power. Just a lot of great information. The important one here is channel. So see, we see TurboNet channel 2. So now I know that I need to be monitoring on channel 2 to do all my attacks. And interesting here is there's someone actually in my neighborhood running WEP. Blows my mind. It's very bad. And TKIP, not good either. So yeah, so that's what would be that. So now we've got the MAC address, which I copied on down here already, and I've got my channel. So I've already got my interface set to it, but now you would normally have to go back and set it to that. So go ahead and close that. So now that we've set our interface, we've got this running. Now let's go ahead and start that packet capture. So to take you through this command real quick, we're going to use AeroDump to start the packet capture. We want to be on channel 2. We want to only capture packets from that device, which is my access point. And we want to do this Word file. This is going to be our output file. We're just naming it TACW for file, and then DSU, and then this is an interface that we want to monitor on. So we go ahead and hit enter. And so you can see here, we're on channel 2. Is the broadcast channel. Channel 2, good. So we're on here. Now we can see stations coming up. Either phones, maybe it's an Xbox. I don't know what we got on the network right now. We got a lot of stuff that can be on there. We can see that we're doing pre-shared key. We can see that T, if we expand this further, it would say TurboNet. So now we're capturing packets. We're saving to that file. So now I can either wait for something else to connect to my network, which I don't really want to do because I'm impatient. So I want to kick all these people off the network, and when they reconnect, hopefully I'll capture the 4-way handshake. When I capture that handshake, it's going to go right here. So this has been pretty buggy, so hopefully it'll work this time. So I've got my air replay. I set my option to tag 0, which will send deauthentication packets. I want to send 6 of my deauthentication packets. I want to send them to this access point, and this is our interface. So let's see if we can get lucky. The other options, TAC H, I've had to use before. This adds, and then you enter in your source MAC for your access point. Sometimes some devices are smart, they'll filter out the traffic without that. And then you can do TAC C for client and an interface. So I could copy one of these if I only wanted to kick this device off the network and place that in there. Sometimes that helps if you kick off a specific device, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll kick off everybody right now. So we go ahead and run that, and we're sending it, and we kicked everybody off the network, and there we go. Check it out. It worked this time. So I've got my handshake. Awesome. So now that I've got that, I no longer need to monitor. I no longer need to capture. So let's open up a new tab, and we'll do Aircrack-ng. Very important. It won't work without that. We're going to do TAC-W for, actually, let's go back real quick. Let's do a word list. So this is my word list that I've got. I downloaded this. Not really. I just made it. It's just quick words because I know my own password because we had to game the game a little bit. So we're going to do Aircrack-ng, and then we're going to do TAC-W for that word list. And then we're going to do DSU4.cap for our file. So do DSU. So now we're going to run this through Aircrack, and it's probably going to crack this very quickly because my word list only has about 10 words. Let's see, it did fail. Okay, so I had to reload my computer and reset my monitor interface, and just quick ran through all the same steps, and now I'm ready again to try out cracking my capture. So you can see here, I got the handshake, so now I'm ready to try out Aircrack. So it should work this time. And yep, sure did. It only tested 4 keys. My list was pretty short. But so there's my password to my Wi-Fi if you're ever in the neighborhood. And here you can see how many keys per second it was going to be testing. You can get that up to quite a bit higher if you set up to use your GPU. But so there we go. So yeah, we just did it. So to wrap this up, so the big limitation there where it really fairy dusted that demo was the word list. So WPA is going to concatenate the SSID and the PMK, that pre-shared key, as part of what it actually uses to pass traffic between those two devices. So you can go out there and you can find a pretty big rainbow file, or rainbow table file. It's 33 gigs, but it's only got 1 million words and 1,000 SSIDs. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not very big because pretty much everybody's going to change their SSID at this point. So that's the big limitation of WPA, because it's going to take a real long time to crack it if you're trying to brute force it, especially with something like a laptop. However, I don't have the link on here, but there's an awesome website where you can take your cap file and in 17 minutes, they'll crack the password for you. It costs about 20 bucks. So for a pen tester point of view, 17 minutes for 20 bucks, it's a pretty good payoff. Check the post and I'll add the link to that website in there. Metasploit, these are just a couple other things I wanted to talk about real quick here in the last 30 seconds. Metasploit, I believe it's chapter 12 in the Metasploit book. It goes into it way more in depth. That's basically the exploit that will set your computer up as an access point, allow other people to pull DHCP and connect to your computer, and then when they try to go access a browser, Metasploit will launch and it'll attempt to get a Meterpreter shell and then start launching a bunch of pre-staged attacks already. Pretty cool. Definitely taking it a step further. The Wi-Fi Pineapple, that's one of the tools that I was talking about. I think it's $100. But it'll run Aircrack and Airbase, and so you can plug this thing in, set it up as a fake access point somewhere, let people connect to it, or you can set it up, let people connect to it, and it'll pass their traffic on to a real Wi-Fi point, and it'll just capture their traffic, send it somewhere of your choosing, and then it'll actually run some of those programs on it. Strip SSL is a really neat one. I don't know if someone will do it for this class, but it'll actually take HTTPS traffic, strip off the SSL, and you can see everything in the clear. So I mean, those are just a couple more ways to take this thing a step further and be a little more advanced. And
you see my email. If you got any questions, hit me up.